Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Q&A session. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm sorry if I look a little bit hot and sweaty. I've just had a major invasion of flying ants into my house, so I am praying they will not come and surround me while I am here on the live stream. So I'd like to just introduce Shauna again. Hey, Shauna. So Shauna is going to be fielding any comments that you may have or any questions that you might have. And when you leave your question in the chat and Shauna replies, it will look as if I am answering you, but actually it's Shauna, because obviously I can't write and present and answer questions and read all the comments at the same time. So if you do have a question, please put 3 question marks in front and 3 behind. But what I would like to do today is I would like just to answer a few questions that have come in this morning and yesterday. And they are primarily some eco-printing or fabric questions in relation to the free bootcamp. And then some questions in relation to the eco-print and wet felt club, which is open for new members until Monday night. So just to say, the questions that have come in relation to eco-printing, they have arisen as a result of the free bootcamp, which was earlier this week. And one of the really, really big questions, in fact, all the questions that appear to be coming in are relating to the fabric, the soap, the preparation of the fabric, and the aftercare. So that's what I would really like to go through now, because I want you to be clear about how you can achieve the best results from your eco-printing. And I am talking specifically about working in an environmentally mindful and health-conscious way without using traditional powdered mordants. So if you are familiar with working with mordants, there may be some things that are different that you need to do when you work in the dirty pot. And these are important. I am sharing years of experience with you. So if you change something and you decide to go down your own route, you may not get the results that you're looking for. So I'm here to help you get your results as quickly as possible. So I'm going to flash up a few of the slides that I had the other day. And the first one is, does all fabric absorb the color equally when you are eco-printing or potentially when you are dyeing in the dirty pot? Because in the membership club, I also have information about vegetation that you can use if you would like to actually dye your fabric an all over color and you want to work without the powdered mordants. So that is something that is in the club. So whether you're eco-printing or dyeing in the dirty pot, you would always prepare your fabric the same way. And it is very much easier to get beautiful and brighter prints on wool, silk, cashmere, or any protein-based fabric. If you think of this fabric as having come from an animal, that's the fabric that is going to give you the most colorful prints at the beginning, in particular, when you are working without traditional powdered mordants. So for wool, silk, and any protein-based fabric, you can either wash it by hand or you can put it through the washing machine in a modern machine on the wool setting, and you use a gentle soap and not a detergent. Now, one of the things that definitely appears to be causing people stress is what sort of soap to use. So I actually have the soap here that I favor. This is an olive oil soap. It's a French soap from Marseille. And I just use a grater. This is an IKEA grater. And I grate that soap into a bowl. I add warm water, I make it into a liquid, and I just use a spoon or 2 of that in my washing machine. Obviously, if I'm washing by hand, I can just rub the fabric with the soap. Then other people were wondering about the temperature of the water. when you are washing your fabric. You have to use your head. You're going to use the same temperature as you would if you were washing any wool or silk. You just treat your fabric in the same way as you normally would, but the big difference, the only difference, is that you're using the gentle olive oil or a similar soap. Now, if you happen to know a soap maker, or if you are a wet felter, you may be able to buy grated soap from your felting supplier. But I have discovered a local soap maker who only uses really natural ingredients. And I can buy offcuts of her soap very, very inexpensively, €5 for a kilo. And that's absolutely perfect because I don't even have to grate it. They're just little shards of soap and small pieces of soap, and I can use them. So you wash your protein-based fabric gently and you use the soap. And then the next thing that seems to be giving people confusion is when I say you soak it overnight in water. Yes, you're going to soak it overnight in water, but you want to complete the washing process first. You wash your garments, you remove all the soap, you either wash them by hand or put them through the washing machine. Then if you're going to eco-print the next day, you put them in plain water overnight. But if you weren't going to eco-print for a week or a month or 2 months, you can just dry the garments, and then the night before you are going to eco-print, you soak the garment in plain water. And then when you are going to eco-print it, you take it out of the water, you squeeze it until it's almost dry, it's just damp. And if you have problems with your wrists or your elbows, I recommend that you roll it up in a dry towel. And that will just take the excess water out. And then you sprinkle your fabric with vinegar, and that will give you the best sort of result because your fabric won't be too wet and you will get crisper prints. So that's what you do with your protein-based fabric. And then when it is cellulose-based fabric, that would be anything that comes from a plant. So linen, cotton, ramie, hemp. Shauna might write that word in the comments. It's not something I can say on YouTube or I may get flagged, but hemp fabric, you can also eco-print that beautifully. And you can treat the man-made fabrics like bamboo or tencel, lyocell. All of those may be treated in the same way as linen and cotton because they come from a plant. So they can get a hotter, more aggressive wash in your washing machine, or you can wash them by hand. But again, you want to use a gentle soap, not a detergent. So if you live in America, you will most likely be familiar with Dr. Bonner's. And Dr. Bonner's is a wonderful soap that you can get in either a liquid or a bar form, and that also will work fine. But something to say about these, the Marseille soap and a lot of these handmade soaps, they don't get as sudsy as your commercial soap or detergent will be. So don't think you have to add loads and loads and loads more into your wash. They never suds up as much. You just need a spoon or two in the washing machine, or just scrub with your hand against the fabric if you're washing by hand, and make sure that you remove all the soap. Then when you have washed your cellulose fabric, again, you can dry it if you want to, but if you are going to eco-print the following day, then just soak it in plain water, and then it goes from the plain water into a rust water dip. Then squeeze out all the excess liquid, and then you are ready to lay out your vegetation and print. Now, this piece here, in fact, that was dipped in the rust water, and you can see that although the prints are dark, there is a sort of a reddish tint to some of those eucalyptus leaves. In the Eco Print and Felt Club, I go through using soy milk or yogurt as a binder, and also Simplicose, and that way you can achieve much more colorful prints on cellulose fabric. Really helpful if you live in a hot climate. So that's the soap and the washing before you print. But the next thing is about washing your fabric afterwards. If you've rolled it on rusty metal or any sort of iron, you need to neutralize it as well after you have printed. So again, you're going to use the same soap. So if you rolled on a copper pipe or a wooden dowel, or you didn't use any pipe at all, you can just go straight ahead and wash your fabric with the gentle soap until the water runs clear. But if you rolled on a rusty metal pipe or any sort of iron, whether it's rusty or not, and that's not copper, this is just iron, in that case, you need to neutralize your fabric as well. And how you do that is you use some bicarbonate of soda or bread soda, baking powder, and you make a solution of that in warm water, and you soak your piece of fabric for 15 minutes to half an hour. It doesn't matter if you leave it in for a bit longer, but I don't leave it any shorter than 15 minutes. And if you're asking how much of the powder, the bicarbonate of soda or baking powder to use, you're just going to have to use your head. For a silk scarf, I would use about 1/3 of a teaspoon. If it was a heavy felt scarf, I would use maybe 1 teaspoon. But you don't want to use too much because it shifts the pH, and you may make your protein fabric it's not good to use a lot with the protein fabric. And that's one of the reasons as well. Some people choose to use sodium carbonate to add into the wash when they wash cellulose fabric, but you never want to use that on your protein-based fabric or it may dissolve. So a little bit, a pinch or two of the bicarbonate of soda for a light to a medium weight scarf will be plenty. And if you're doing a big piece, you need to add a little bit more. And you wash your fabric until it runs clear, whether it's felt or whether it is linen or maybe it's silk. You just wash until it runs clear. Now, another question came in, and that question was about whether pieces would shrink. And I did answer that question the other day when somebody asked me, would their felt shrink? And all fabric behaves the same way. I thought I was clear about that, but maybe I wasn't. And everybody picks up information differently. So I treat my handmade felt like any other protein-based fabric. So my felt, cashmere, wool, mohair, silk, I am not expecting them to shrink in the eco printing pot because the bundles are tied so tightly. However, don't forget, I always give everything a really good wash first before I eco print it and the overnight soak. So if there is any shrinkage going to occur, it will have occurred before I eco print. And it's always better to err on the side of caution if you're printing fabric that you want to sew with, for example. I would err on the side of caution, and I would always print a little bit more than I wanted so that if there was any shrinkage, I would have allowed for that shrinkage. But in my many years of experience, I have had almost no pieces shrink, in any significance in the pot, but I have had 1 or 2. And they tend to be, I eco printed a commercial wool jacket once, and it didn't shrink in the pot. It shrank before it got to the pot. It shrank in the washing machine. Even though I wash all my cashmere in my machine, this particular piece shrank, but only in one direction. So it was very strange. The sleeve stayed as long, but the body changed size. But anyway, you shouldn't have any problem in the eco printing part if you bundle correctly. So the next thing would be ironing. So after you have washed your fabric, you can iron it, and I like to iron it on both sides of the fabric using the hottest setting of my iron. And I iron the fabric when it is still damp, when it comes out of the washing machine. And I find that that gives it the finish that I am happiest with. And we have a great question has come in actually from Jan, and Jan has a question. If she has had an unsuccessfully printed piece, it's a piece of wool, can she eco print it again? And absolutely, Jan, it's a big yes for me. So for anybody who has had an experience where they're not happy with their prints, and trust me, it happens to everybody, and it happens to me sometimes as well. And one of the reasons it happens more with working in the dirty pot is because the season and also the current weather conditions affect how the vegetation print more, I would say, than when you're using the powdered mordants to fix the color. So it will happen. So yes, when you want to overprint, Jan, if it's wool, I finish the piece totally, except I don't iron it. So I would, the unsuccessful piece, so I would wash the piece out until the water ran clear. If it had been wrapped on an iron pipe, I would neutralize it and wash it. And then I treat it exactly the same as another piece that hasn't been through the pot. So I would have the overnight soak, and I would then just proceed to go ahead and sprinkle it with the vinegar. Now, if you've just washed the piece and you're not too tired and you intend printing it the same day, it's already been wet. You don't obviously have to soak it again. But if you're printing it on a different day, I would soak it overnight. And then when it comes to the vegetation to use, I don't know what the first vegetation you used was, Jan, but when it comes to overprinting, I like to enhance the prints that I already have, if there are any nice prints. But if you have any doubt, I would just shove a whole load of onion skins on it. I wouldn't worry too much. I would go for more of an all over abstract print. And then whatever prints you have there underneath, you should also see them as well. And what can be good fun when you are overprinting is to actually to fold the piece differently than you did the first time. So if it was a scarf and you rolled it from one end to the other, you might choose to fold it totally differently, or roll across the scarf instead of from one end to the other. And that's something that in the club, there are loads of videos of me working and videos of me overprinting. And there are suggestions for different effects, how you can make different effects, such as a sort of a cloud-like effect when you are tying bundles for the pot. So I would potentially choose a different way of folding it, and I would probably use onion skins. So I'm just going to go back now. I'll add this slide in again. So the next thing then is about the care of pieces. So first of all, when you're processing them, I forgot this slide was here. Bundles always need to be processed according to the vegetation that you're using, not the kind of fabric. So if you have silk and you are rolling it up, let's say with onion skins, and you have cellulose fabric and you're rolling it up with eucalyptus leaves, and they both go in for the length of time that the vegetation needs, not the fabric. So that's how you decide what it is. And caring for textiles has really, it's very easy to look after them. And two questions came in about whether after you had finished the textiles, you could use detergent on them. And my simple answer is no. We really want to encourage the eco prints to stay there for years and years and years. And the very reason we are using the soap that we're doing, the gentle soap, is because we don't want to impregnate the fabric with stain blasters before we print. We want the fabric to keep the best print, and then afterwards we wanted to retain the best print. So continue to use your gentle soap. Don't hang your prints in strong light. And that is something that you shouldn't do with any textile. So if you have a big wall hanging, for example, you don't want to hang textiles opposite very strong light, because you will discover that textiles fade. You know, if I hung this sweatshirt that I'm wearing, for example, if I hung this up in front of a window and I left it there for a month and came back, I could very well find that the portion that was facing the light was already faded. So don't hang your eco-printed textiles up in front of strong light. And thank you, Nadine. I see that you were saying you're picking up on things that didn't make it into your notes. And I hope you found the workbook helpful, talking of notes. So, yep. Just give me 1 second. If you have questions, please can you just can you ask them, and Shauna will just flag them for me with the question marks. I just want to check one thing down here in a comment, and I need to look at the screen for a second. Yeah, so actually this is, there is an interesting question here from, just 1 second while I hide that banner. So I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name, but this is in relation to language. And the thing, I'm going to just call you Marika, but I'm not sure if that is your first name. But Marika, in the library, in the club, there is written information and then all step-by-step videos. So you actually see me doing the work, but you could use Google Translate to translate the information into Hungarian. So that is something that in the future, I hope I will have certain information available in other languages. But personally, I find Google Translate is really, really helpful. And I'm a one-woman show with Shauna as my right-hand woman virtually, and Mihal is fantastic, and Raina helping in the background with tech. But there is only so much that we can do. And so at the moment, English is the only language, but Google Translate is actually very, very useful. I'm going to show you a little bit of, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that came in about the club and show you the library now in just a minute. But I see that Sebastian has asked a question here. And he is saying that it's very common to share laundry rooms. Will the residues of detergents from other users in the machine destroy the prints? Now, that is a really good question, Sebastian. I use commercial non-biological detergent if I'm washing, for example, my linen sheets or my denims and, you know, hard-working clothes that are not eco-printed. And I don't have a problem washing my eco-printed textiles in my machine. If you were really unsure, I'm not sure if the machines that you share, if you have to pay to use the machine or not, but if you were, you know, individually to use the machine, if you were very nervous about it, I would maybe just do a really quick hot wash with no detergent, but with nothing in the machine. And that would definitely clean it out. But I haven't had any problem with using, you know, non-biological washing liquid for my machine, and I would, you know, do my linen sheets, and then I would just as happily do my eco-printed pieces afterwards. So I would say you should be fine. And just on the on the liquid washing up or not washing up, clothes detergent thing. Just to let you know, I was facilitating a workshop with a group of textile artists, and one of the people had been a technician in a very well-known school where they also taught textiles, and she had learned from me before. And when it came down to this particular group, she said she would prepare fabric for them. She had got some old woolen blankets, and so she prepared all the fabric and she soaked the fabric overnight, and I thought nothing else of it. She told me in advance she would have the fabric prepared. I said about the soap, and that was fine. But when it came to the workshop, when we went to open the bundles, I had done a sample on that wool as well, and everybody had the wool. Luckily, everybody else had other fabric as well. And when we started opening our pieces, we didn't have good prints. And in many cases, no prints at all, really. And when I questioned her, she suddenly went the color of my top. And she realized she had used a very well-known commercial laundry liquid here in Ireland. And so what had happened was that laundry liquid had stain blasters in it. It wasn't actually, I don't think it was a biological one, but she had used it and that had prevented the fabric getting good prints. So even though it had been washed and soaked overnight, it did prevent it getting good prints. So I cannot encourage you enough, use your gentle soap. So Rue, thanks. Rue is saying, always learn something new each time I listen and watch, and maybe because there are always new questions. Yes. So in relation to the club, some questions have come in that Shauna and I have been reading. And one of them, I haven't had too many people asking this time, but this is a common question. I'm not good on the computer. So how difficult is it to find everything in the club library? So what I would like to say is, if you've been able to log in and watch this video, you definitely will be able to log into your library where I host the content. I'm going to just give you a little trip around the library very quickly now. But as with any new learning experience, there can be a few teething problems in the first week or so. If you can't remember how to log in, or you don't remember your password, or you feel overwhelmed. And that's why Shauna and I are here to help everybody. So on Wednesday next, after the membership opening up has closed again, I'm going to host onboarding calls where I will show you and answer all your questions and help you. And they will be on Zoom so that there will be no problem. We will make sure that you get up and running successfully. And talking about sharing screens and things, I'm going to share my screen now. I've not actually done it before using StreamYard, which is the software I'm using for this live stream. So let's see how this goes. Now, I'm hoping that you can see this. And this is the dashboard in the library. So for members, when you join, I'm hosting all the content here in a library, and the platform is called Kajabi. And if I just scroll down here, this is just what the first page looks like. It's called a dashboard. And on the left, that text that you can see going up and down, that is those are all like, let's just say chapters of something, chapters in a book. So they're like chapters in a book, and the darker writing is a category. So where the picture of me and Pip is, you can also view these differently because people absorb information in different ways. So if I click on categories there, you can just see it's showing differently in a different visual way. But if I scroll down on the left, the categories are all the same. So once I click on a category, if I look, for example, at natural dyeing in a reactive pot, I could click on it here beside the image, which is what I will do. And then you can see that there are all these different sections within this small part of the library, and it just goes on and on and on. So these are all the videos and the information that is in this part of the library. And then I can just go backwards to the dashboard. On the left, where you see everything here, these are all the different sections, and each of these sections has multiple videos. So if I look in the foundations of eco-printing in the dirty pot, and then I scroll down, there are just so many different sections. And then if we look at, let's just see, we had a question about overprinting. So I'm going to click on this overprinting one here. And so here is actually a video of me overprinting a lamb's wool wrap that I was not happy with. And so there's text here. Then I explain the leaves that I'm using, and I'm going to just turn the sound off on that. And then I go through the video. I explain what I'm doing, the leaves, and why I'm folding it in the way I'm folding it. Now, I've turned the sound off so that you can't hear it there. Otherwise, it's not going to be easy to hear me talking as well. But there are so many different sections in the library, but I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed. And that's where at the beginning in the welcome section, there's a video showing you how to navigate the library. That's in addition to the onboarding calls. Then there are these roadmaps for success, which I am going to chat about in the onboarding calls. And as well as the text explaining what that's about, and then you've got the roadmap. Many of the sections in the library have a download, and all you need to do is click on the little download button, and you can download the documents that are in that section. So I hope that that is self-explanatory there. I'm going to stop sharing it. But if you have some questions about the club that you would like me to answer now, please can you just ask them in the comments, and don't forget, just put question marks in front and behind. And I am going to actually announce some extra bonuses for everybody who joins the club before the deadline of 11:59 Pacific Daylight Time on Monday. And of course, if you've already joined, you're going to qualify for those bonuses as well. But I will be announcing them tomorrow. I had hoped to actually announce them this evening, but when I got wrapped up in that ant flock that I have downstairs, I just got totally sidetracked. So I'll announce the bonuses tomorrow, but there will be some really cool bonuses for anybody who joins the club before Monday. So there are no more questions about coming in about the club. And there is one more question from Sebastian. And Sebastian is saying that he has some pieces that have been previously treated with a mordant but not dyed. Will they destroy the pot liquid, or can he still use them, maybe after a hard wash? And actually, this is a really good question. Providing you mordanted them correctly, Sebastian, and gave them a rinse after you mordanted them to remove any loose mordant particles that had not been impregnated in the fabric, you can go ahead and eco-print them in the dirty pot. The thing about mordant and fabric, it's been structurally and chemically altered. So even if you washed and washed and washed that fabric, you wouldn't remove all the mordant. So you can go ahead, you can eco-print, and you will get different colors and results than in the dirty pot than if you hadn't mordanted, but it can look really exciting. So I would just say, go ahead, eco-print. So for anybody who is a traditional dyer and you have a stash of fabric that already has been mordanted, feel free to go ahead and print in the dirty pot. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results that you can get. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope I've clarified some things about the fabric and the soap and the, working with the fabric. So something else I should probably say that the club is really designed to help you get from where you are now, whether that's a total beginner who has never ever eco-printed, or somebody who has eco-printed and wants to improve their printing. The club is designed to help you get from your starting point to where you want to be as quickly as possible without stressing you. And that's actually exactly where the let me see, can I see it? Yeah, that's exactly where these roadmaps come in. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see this very clearly here because, the text is small on the screen. But when you join the club, I will help you, and we'll discuss this during the onboarding calls. I will be able to help you identify which stage you're at now, whether it's eco-printing or whether it's wet felting, whether you want to do one or other technique or combine both, which is what most people actually do. I will be able to help you identify where you are on this roadmap. And then all you have to do is concentrate totally on the steps that you need to do to get to the next level. So we have people in the club who have joined as absolute beginners, in eco-printing and absolute beginners in wet felting. And there are people in the club who have many, many, many decades, in some cases, of textile experience, including natural dyeing and eco-printing, with or without mordants, but mainly with mordants to start with. And it's just fascinating because there's just that wealth of knowledge in our private Facebook group as well. We all help each other, and I learn things and other people learn things, and it's really, really great fun and very supportive. We have 2 live Zoom calls with me every month. They used to be facilitated via StreamYard. This is StreamYard that I'm chatting to you today using. But we discovered that people prefer Zoom because then you can see each other and talk to each other. I find it slightly more stressful. I find StreamYard easier than Zoom, but everybody else prefers Zoom for the private calls within the club. So that's what we use. And we're planning to have a sort of social get together very soon as well. And then I'll have, as I say, some bonuses to announce tomorrow. And you can expect them if you registered for the bootcamp. I will send that information out as an email. But otherwise, I am planning on having a final Q&A session just about the club, not about the bootcamp, but a final Q&A session for people in Australia and New Zealand at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, Irish time. And then for people in Europe and America at 6 p.m. on Monday night. So Shauna, maybe you just might put that up as a comment, please. Just put the time. So it's 8 a.m. BST on Monday and 6 p.m. BST. Just a final short and snappy Q&A session about the club. If there's any question you would like to ask me, because my whole aim is to help you achieve what you would like in as short a time possible. There's so much information on the internet. And of course, with artificial intelligence now as well, it can look really convincing, but if you don't work with somebody who has had the experience and the hands-on time eco-printing, you may well just waste your own time and your money and also your materials. So that's what I would say to you. If you do have questions, please make sure to ask them before Monday evening. So I don't think there are any final questions. I would like to say a big thanks to Shauna for helping me as always. And Shauna's mum and her family have gone out to meet her. She's going to have some birthday celebrations, I think, over the next few days for her mum, not for Shauna herself. So Shauna, have a wonderful weekend. And thank you all so much for joining, for your attention, for being part of the bootcamp. And I really look forward to welcoming you to the club, those of you who decide you'd like to work further and fast track your success, with me. So thank you all so much. Brilliant. Thanks. everybody. Over and out from Clasheen and Greece.